Hello and welcome to Moment of Truth on Labour Social. I'm Graham Hughes. Yesterday, in the ongoing COVID inquiry, we heard from the head of Boris Johnson's private office, Martin Reynolds, as well as Boris Johnson's private secretary for public services, Imran Shafi. They faced several hours of questioning from Hugo Keith KC, the inquiry's lead counsel. Martin Reynolds, aka Party Marty, apologised unreservedly for parties during lockdown for which he was never arrested, put on trial, nor thrown in jail. I think he had some £50 fines to pay, maybe. No biggie for a guy who was born into vast wealth, who attended one of the top public schools in the country and hasn't really done a real day's work in his life. Reynolds was also quizzed about why, when the COVID inquiry was announced, the disappearing messages function was turned on for his WhatsApp group of top officials. He said he didn't recall why that was done. I know why that was done, Martin Reynolds. It was done because you're a gobshite and you don't want to ever face judgment for your crimes against humanity. Meanwhile, Imran Shafi said that the Cobra Emergencies Committee was focused on short-term plans leading to a lack of COVID control measures. He also said that the lockdown plans were changed constantly, as the government, under the lazy, feckless, meat-safe murderer that is Boris Johnson, couldn't decide whether it should contain the virus, implement herd immunity, or mitigate it. An inability to make tough decisions that runs through this government like Blackpool through a stick of rock. The inquiry also heard that there was a period of 10 days in February 2020, coinciding with half term, during which Boris Johnson wasn't briefed at all. He was the leader of the nation. A deadly pandemic, the likes of which the world had never known, was already spreading around the globe like wildfire. It sounds like he went on holiday and turned his phone off. It's all right. It's not like he was in charge of anything important, right? Johnson's spokesman has declined to comment on the evidence presented so far, but claims that the former PM is cooperating fully with the inquiry. Yeah, the same inquiry to which he still hasn't turned over his WhatsApp messages. But the big takeaway from yesterday's interview was this.
This is your diary, your notebook. Halfway down the page, we can see CX bilat. Is that a reference to a bilateral meeting between the Prime Minister and the Chancellor Exchequer?
It is, yes.
In quotes, we're killing the patient to tackle the tumour. Large PPL, numbers of people who will die. Why are we destroying everything for people who will die anyway soon?
I think that says economy.
Sorry, destroy the economy for people who will die anyway soon. Mr. Shafi, who said those words?
I can't say for sure. I think it was the former Prime Minister.
And people in hospital, the elderly or the infirm or the ill, were described as bed blockers.
I think that was a term that was also widely used in DHSC and the NHS of people who didn't need to be in hospital.
Why are we destroying the economy for people who will die anyway soon? Now, you may think on the surface that's the worst thing anyone could possibly say, especially the thousands of people who voted Tory as older people, who are more vulnerable to the lethality of COVID, tend to do. But then you'd have people pointing out that when the economy is not doing well, even more people suffer and even more people die. But here's the thing. Boris Johnson, Rishi Sunak, Dominic Cummings, none of them gave a flying fuck about the economy when they were pushing for Brexit. In 2007, the GDP of the UK measured in US dollars was 3.09 trillion. Last year, it was 3.07 trillion. So even though our population has grown by over 6 million in that time, an almost 10% increase, our GDP has not grown at all. And that's why our GDP per capita has gone down from around $50,000 per person in 2007 to around $45,000 per person today, a 10% decrease. The figures are big, but the maths is easy. More people plus same amount of money equals less money per person. It's a big factor in why people can't afford to get on the housing ladder, why people can't afford the rent, why people can't afford food even though they're working 2 or 3 jobs, why people can't afford the heating bills, why people are choosing not to have children. Because for the entire time the Tories have been in power, our economy hasn't grown beyond what it was in 2007. There are kids who took their GCSEs this year who have never experienced the British economy growing a single penny in real terms. This is remarkable. Since the Industrial Revolution, through 2 world wars, Britain has never taken this long to recover from economic difficulty. It's almost like the clowns in charge prioritise austerity, Brexit, culture war bullshit, and nefarious ideas of sovereignty over the economy every single time. Over that same period, other countries pulled ahead. Not just established economies like Germany, but also emerging economies like India and China, not to mention Ireland and the USA, who have seen their economies increase almost exponentially between 2007 and today. Meanwhile, we were told year after year by Boris Johnson, Rishi Sunak, Dominic Cummings, Michael Gove, Jacob Rees-Mogg and all those Brexiters who were in charge of the country during the COVID crisis that the most important thing in our lives was sovereignty. By that they meant bendy bananas, blue passports made in France, and our rivers to be filled with shit. Many of us who spent the best part of 3 years fighting Brexit pointed out that you couldn't eat sovereignty. And that's true. Turns out you can't use it to protect yourself against a deadly virus either. But the duplicity on show here with the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland asking the question, why are we destroying the economy for people who are going to die soon anyway? When he quite patently never gave a toss about the economy in the first place is absolutely staggering. Since the UK was tricked by slimy con artists and Russian operatives into voting to impose economic sanctions on ourselves, Brexit has cost this country £1 trillion in lost growth. We were on course to overtake Germany. We are now being left in the dust. This comes as little surprise. Rishi Sunak and Rees-Mogg are disaster capitalists. They make money out of made money out of companies failing. Sunak made a mint out of the credit crunch. Jacob Rees-Mogg's dad co-wrote a book called Blood on the Street, a book about how to make money in a crisis. We had disaster capitalists in charge of our country during a disaster, and over 200,000 people died as a direct result. But don't worry, all that suffering, all that pain, all those deaths were absolutely worth it because our economy is going great guns. Oh, hang on. Today we're hearing from Lee Kane and Dominic Cummings. Again, if you've been paying attention, don't expect any bombshells. It will just be a reiteration or confirmation of what we already know. The Tories are toxic, a relentless engine of misery, incompetence and cruelty, crushing everything and everyone in its path. A clown shoe stamping on a human face forever. If the UK was a PLC, Johnson and his cronies would be done for corporate manslaughter. A systematic extermination of civilians deemed superfluous to economic requirements on a scale not seen in Europe since World War II. Let me know what you think in the comments below.